Hi, this is Paige again. It's early Sunday morning, September 18th. Um, I've been out. I went to a meeting of, well, a gathering of transgendered girls that belong to the Denver Mile High Transgender Meetup Group. And we went to the Black Crown and had a good time. There was 10 to 12 girls there, and several brought their spouses, and a couple brought just friends who were some genetic girls. So we had a nice time. It was crowded as before. It's just a very nice place to go. Before I start talking again, I've had several people asked to show people what I look like, and I think they mean my, not my body, but my whole figure. So I'm going to step back and do that. I'm dressed up. I'm dressed more than I've been dressed, fancier than I've been dressed for quite a while. This dress is one of the first dresses I bought when I started dressing, and the first picture of me that I really felt showed me as a woman. I was wearing this dress. I have a little bolero jacket on, which I like to wear to minimize my shoulders, because my shoulders can be big and muscular. But I think I'll take that off since I'm home. Anyway, had a wonderful time. Met some new girls, and we talked about transition and things like that. Not everybody is transitioning. I moved to Denver from Washington, D.C., and when I was in D.C., I was a founding member of a Yahoo group called Classy DC Sisters, which was it was a non-sexual group. It was solely for girls who wanted to be out in public as women. There's probably over 100 members of that group now. Only a few are transitioning. Many are married. Probably the vast majority of them are married. And I'll get to where I'm getting with this. I just want to say that I don't consider myself, just because I'm transitioning, I don't consider myself any really different than any of those girls. I don't consider myself more of a woman or anything like that. We all have to make our own decisions in our life about the women we are, and how we're going to balance that with what else is in our lives. And I am lucky enough to have arrived at a place in my life where I'm free to make the decisions to, in a sense, please myself at this point of view. I'm divorced. My children are older. Both in college, but young adults. And so nothing I say here in any way reflects upon any of my sisters' womanhood, okay? Just because they choose to stay in a marriage or choose not to transition because of family and children and things of that nature, in no way suggests that they're any less of a transgendered woman than I am. So when I speak about tonight's topic, which is what I call the awakening, which is when I realized that there was a woman inside, and that I was doing more than just cross-dressing. I'm not suggesting that they haven't found their woman inside. I'm not suggesting that when you find the woman inside you need to transition. I'm not suggesting that at all. What I'm suggesting is that the awakening is when we realize that there is a woman inside. Not that she has to come out as I'm coming out, but that she has to be acknowledged and celebrated. Okay? So, just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm an older girl. I won't say my age. Mature. I have known that I was different all my life. I was raised in a rural area and didn't actually have any exposure to anything about transgenderism until I was away at college. And I went to graduate school and during graduate school fell in love with a girl and did everything I was supposed to do, got married and all of that. When I was in my 30s, I stopped drinking, okay? I haven't had a drink since. And it was a few years after I stopped drinking that I really became very much aware of the fact that I had an extremely strong, what people would call feminine side, that I was different. I was different in a way that I now recognized again that I was different the same way I'd recognized it when I was younger. I had two brothers and I was just different, let's put it that way. Anyway, I didn't do anything about it. I knew I was feminine. I was married. I had children, young children, and I really sort of felt that I didn't deserve the chance, or also I was afraid, very much afraid still at that age. It was just too overwhelming, and so I never really dressed. It was as if I knew that it would be a slippery slope for me. Anyway, when my divorce happened, separation happened, I suddenly found myself in a position where I could dress finally. I could make, do things like that. I never at that time for a moment thought that I would even be considering transitioning. I'm not sure. I mean, I knew about it, but I just wanted to dress as a girl and see if there was a girl there. That's what I wanted. So I met somebody online, a transvestite online, who was in her late 60s, and I went to her apartment, and she, made me up without me looking at a mirror, and then turned me around to the mirror, and I saw the girl very quickly, and then I saw the guy dressed in a wig and stuff. But I did see the girl, and I recognized her. I was sort of like a, oh, there you are moment. She looked like her cousins. Who were girls. All my cousins are girls. But she looked like her cousins. Anyway, at that time I still had no idea. I remember being told by the woman who made me up that I would want to pick a nail color because I would want to paint my toenails and wear them underneath my shoes to work, and that I would want to buy some panties and wear those to work, and all of that stuff. And it was all sort of like, not me, this is just a occasional weekend thing. But it wasn't just an occasional weekend thing, it was a every weekend thing. And I got my ears pierced pretty quickly within the first 3 months, and started traveling a lot for work, which brought me out here to Denver and stuff. But the group I was with in D.C. also brought me in contact with a lot of girls from around the country who would come to D.C. on business. and had, through one means or another, heard about our group and contacted the group. And so they would fly into town on business, and we would make dinner dates to socialize. And one of these people who did it was my good friend Candy. Candy is from Charlotte, North Carolina, and she's a very pretty blonde, and quite a fun person to be around. And so Candy came into town, and I made her acquaintance and went out with her. And then about 8 months later, and this is probably when I had been dressing for about 16 months, Candy came back to town, but not quite to Washington. She was in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is about an hour and 10 minutes or so south of Washington. And so I had the freedom to, during the work week, to dress late in the afternoon and leave and drive down there to have dinner with Candy in Fredericksburg. And that's what I did. And another girl from Newport News drove up and met us, and the three of us met at a restaurant in downtown Fredericksburg, which is not the normal town that I would have been going out in dressed as a woman at that time, but it was fine. Anyway, when I was driving Candy back to her hotel, we were talking about what we say when people ask why we dress. And Candy said, very matter-of-factly, I tell them that I dress this way because this is the way I'm supposed to look. And I liked it. It just seemed like the perfect answer. And it is the perfect answer for this girl. So I told people about it. But more than that, I asked myself, why was it the perfect answer for me? And it was a perfect answer because I truly believe this is the way I'm supposed to look. And it made me realize that all this fixation on dressing that I was doing was much more deeper than I wanted to give it credit for. That I needed to look seriously at how I was going to live the rest of my life, and that I needed help. And so it was shortly after that, within months, that I started seeing a psychologist who was experienced in transgender matters. And I received the diagnosis, which I expected to get. And I am lucky enough to have choices, both in I'm not so transgendered that I have to be a woman to be happy, but I'm convinced that I will be most happy if I'm a woman. And I have the freedom and the ability to do that, hopefully, if I have the time. And that was my awakening. I'm sure that most of my sisters, even those who aren't transitioning, have had similar awakenings to different degrees. We're all different. There's a spectrum of color there, a spectrum of transgendered. We all have our own path, and we all have our own destination. I am so glad that I'm on my path. I love all my sisters. It's been through the exposure to them and people like Candy that I have learned to look at myself, and it's been an immense help in giving me the courage to ask the questions I needed to ask and to move forward. So that's where I am. I'd like to hear from any of you. If you'd like to write me, you can write me here at Paige 80233 at YouTube, I think is the address. Comments, suggestions, anything you'd like me to talk about, be happy to do that. So everybody have a good week and stay pretty, okay? Bye-bye.